and welcome to the Methodist Mission Southern's podcast series Change That Works. Methodist Mission Southern's vision is of a safe, caring and sustainable society where everyone is valued, respected and enjoys an equal opportunity to lead a fulfilled life. The mission delivers a broad range of evidence-based services to people of all ages throughout Otago and Southland. Our social and educational services aim to develop skills and build resilience in every person we work with to create meaningful, long-lasting changes for themselves, their whānau and their communities. I'm Julie Roberts, Lead Grants and Giving, and today I'm talking to someone many of you may know, Laura Black, the Missions Director. Kia ora, Laura. Thank you for taking the time to have this kōrero with me.
Oh, kia ora, Julie.
So, Laura, can you tell me a little of the mission's history and how it has adapted to stay effective in a changing society?
So the mission was first formed in 1890 in South Dunedin to solve the emerging problems of poverty there. And it started with a street mission that morphed into a friendship centre. Over time, out at Company Bay, there was an aged care facility and service. In the 80s, we brought in approach community learning, which was doing foundation education and some prison education. And all of those things have gone by the wayside because, of course, over time, the needs of people change, the people who have needs change. And yet still, we have Little Citizens, our early learning centre that was first got underway in the 1930s, independent of the mission, and then came to be part of us in the 1950s. Despite all of the things that we're not doing anymore, we're doing quite a lot of stuff that we weren't previously involved in. We've established in the last decade 3 youth transition houses, one of which is for young mums. We've picked up the Parenting Through Separation and the Sustaining Tenancies contracts for Otago and Southland. And of course, we are now delivering, in conjunction with the University of Otago, training in how to use the Engage suite of tools to early learning centres up and down the country. So as things morph and change on us, we have tried to morph and change to go with the times, I suppose.
Oh, very adaptable. That's lovely. So what are the biggest challenges the mission faces in achieving these goals, and how do you address them?
Well, I think there's a conjunction of issues there. The first one is that there are constant shifts in need and constant shift in priorities for funders. Mostly that's the government, but a lot of philanthropic support as well. There's changes in economics and demographics in the environment, all of which affect what we can get support to do. And sometimes those changes are very rapid. So around 10 years ago, the government of the day got out of what was called future-focused training opportunities, which was the second chance education we did with adults. And we had 3 months' notice to lose about a quarter of our annual income.
Goodness.
And almost all of the income in which we were making a little bit of money that helped us support some of the other stuff we were doing. And it was existentially threatening for us. And in fact, the 2 largest Māori providers in the country closed as a result. So I feel fortunate that we managed to get through. But it was a really rough time. And a year or so later, there was another switch where something disappeared almost overnight. And of course, it's incredibly rough on staff, but it's really rough on us as an organisation. You can't keep having those experiences. And so one of the things that happened for us as a result of those 2 particular cuts in funding was we decided that we wanted to be less reactive. We wanted to get ahead of change before it happened to us. And of course, really the only way to do that is to innovate. Now, it's really stressful innovating because there's a lot of risk. You don't know if what you come up with is going to work. You don't know if it works, whether somebody will want to support it. And it's a really testing time. But we learned as an organisation a whole lot of skills around how to do some of that stuff. And along with it, finding the knowledge, right? What's happening, what works, who's interested, who are the players, who can we collaborate with? So it's a very fluid experience, and we made a fair number of mistakes doing that transition to being more innovative. But that's why we've now got 60% of the youth transition houses in the country are now in Otago Southland. It's why we've got Engage. It's why we're starting to talk about other programs like Enrich and, the sustaining tendencies and the parenting through separation. And so I'm grateful for those change drivers. But in a sector where staff are frequently paid, 20 to 25% below the going rate, where there's not a lot of money, where it's really complex because there's a lot of organisations, there's a lot of actors in the space, navigating that and keeping everybody upright is challenging. And I don't want to talk about COVID as well because that was an extra layer, right? But taking care of our staff group while we navigate that constantly changing environment, that's probably the hardest thing in my life.
Right, and certainly being forward thinking is a big skill.
And something that you and I'm not claiming that we're world class at it, but something you definitely get better at by doing, and that requires the good people who are willing to sign up for that, including our board, who I think have been phenomenal at being willing to have an organisation that's constantly adapting.
Right. So what inspired you to be involved with the mission, and how long have you been serving as its director to go through all of these changes?
Too long. So I've been doing this kind of work, I realise, by the end of this year for nearly 40 years, one way and another. In the UK a little bit, in Nelson, in Wellington, and here in Dunedin, and across a whole lot of different kind of for good non-governmental activity, education, outdoor recreation, youth, disability support services, women, LGBT. And when I came to Dunedin, because I wanted to live here, because it's such a fabulous place to live. It really is. And I was looking around for work to do, and I'll confess to spending a little bit of time at the University of Otago, inflicting myself on them as an employee for a couple of years. And then this job came up, and I went to the interview, and it's one of those make or break moments in your life. There were people in that room at the interview who I just desperately wanted to work with, having met them. Careful thinkers, passionate, with really deep and well thought out ethos that I'd never met anything that it was like a gravitational pull. I just had to be closer to it. Had to work with those people to learn what it was that they knew, and to become a better manager and a better person myself because of that. So, and isn't that always the way? Like we go to work for the people who are there, who we find are transformational for ourselves as people. So that was my experience with the mission. And since February 2007.
Right. Well done.
So by now it's all my fault, I think. Whatever's happening, it's down to me.
That's fine. Yeah. So how does the mission measure its impact, and what outcomes are you most proud of?
This is a complex area, right? Because compared to people who might be working in a commercial or retail environment, the social services sector tends to have less precise measures. And often we're measuring on the basis of occupancy. How many people slept last night in our youth transition houses? How many people enrolled in Little Citizens? How many people did our sustaining tendencies workers help this month? We've tried to do more than that. And of course, like a lot of NGOs, we have We have the interest of the Education Review Office for our little citizens. We've got social sector accreditation agencies just been through looking at our youth transition houses. And so those are kind of quality assurance measures. But increasingly, we are looking to work directly with the research. So with the Engage program that we're rolling out, we worked with Dr. Dione Healy and the University of Otago researchers who generated the original stuff and then ran additional research during the pilot and testing phases to make sure that at scale we were getting the same results that they got in a really tight research project. And we use a tool called feedback informed treatment with the one-to-one stuff that we do, which is a very quick way of checking in with people about where are they at and how are we doing for them. And the thing that I really like about FIT is that it's got a lot of randomised clinical trials proving how effective it is compared to much more extensive, longer tools. And our experience of using it is that the people that we're working with find that it speeds up for them how quickly we can get to helping them with the thing that's in the way.
Right.
So that produces some information from me and the coordinators and the managers and the workers about how we are doing, and it enables us to have conversations about what are we learning, what do we think about the service we're providing, can we do better, and that's really, really useful.
So it's more about the people than the numbers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, stories are great. And I know you know this, I can tell you 10 heartbreaking stories, but we had 6,000 clients last year. So somewhere in there, we need to have some numbers as well. And it's the place where numbers and stories come together that is the richest in terms of looking at, as an agency, are we doing what it is that we hope we're doing?
Right.
So in terms of the outcomes I'm most proud of, all of them.
Good answer.
Every time I sit with somebody and they tell me about what happened today, what the work was, I get the stories coming through from the front line. There's I hear from coordinators and centre managers and things like that about what happened today, what happened last week. I'm just proud of all of it. I think really fortunate to work with some amazing people working really hard to do good work as best we all together can. And I see the feedback from parents and from youth and from whānau about what a transformation they experience that as. And how lucky am I to turn up and, help out with that.
It's lovely. Well done. So in previous podcast episodes, I've touched upon the collaborative efforts that the mission engages in with various partners, such as the DCC and Southland Community Trust. So how do you see these partnerships help us with our goals, i.e. partnering for purpose?
Oh, really grateful for anybody who is willing to collaborate with us. And for the opportunity to collaborate with other people who are bringing passion and heart and commitment to making a difference in the lives of others. I think it's an incredible thing to find friends
and so much value
and
to
so
do
much
the work
value
together.
and their willingness, particularly people like. The Otago Community Trust, the Community Trust of Southland, the DCC, the ICC, those partners are really willing to say to us, what is it that you most need? What is it that we can do that makes, your work easier? And so our ability to turn around, Mercy Hospital Trust and say, sun hats. Yes. Sun hats for the littlies, because a lot of the whānau that we've got, that might be a bit of a stretch for them. And for these, not cheap as chips, but actually really proper, good quality kit to turn up for us to be able to distribute to those whānau. That's awesome.
Yes.
That's really, really awesome. In terms of other providers, we work hard with government. We work hard with other agencies where, we've got shared goals and approaches that work well together, and that's always a work in progress. So we welcome, we've got in Invercargill, we've got the Good Bitches Baking.
Oh, yes. Lovely baking.
Lovely baking, and are keeping a whole bunch of young people, our rakatahi, well up on the calories. And it's really nice as well with those sorts of gifts that the people we're working with don't have to always put up with second-hand gear. They don't always have to put up with the minimum, but that there are treats as well.
Yes, and they're worthy of them.
And they're worthy of them, right? You're special and you matter, and by the way, here's something with 3 inches of icing on top of it. Knock yourself out, we all like that.
Yes.
And we should all have those sorts of treats from time to time because they communicate a value between us. So always really grateful for the support of others who see something in our journey that's of value to them.
Right, that's lovely. So what is the mission's thought on stewardship with regard to solar panels, emissions, carbon footprint?
So we're just in the process of minting a new 10-year strategic plan, and normally with those plans we wind up with 3 or 4 goals. One of the really significant goals for the next 10 years is going to be both moving to a more sustainable basis in terms of climate change mitigation and waste minimisation. And we're currently working through how we might do that. For us, these are going to be all about energy costs, right? It's going to be about the electricity that we consume. And if you've got a house of 6 teenagers, yes, there's going to be a lot of hot water. There's going to be a lot of oven time. There's going to be a lot of
washing machines.
Device charging gets through a fair number of kilowatts. An early learning centre in winter in South Dunedin, that's a fair amount of heat pump activity right there. Also travel, we've got a fleet of 8 or 9 vehicles where we've got workers constantly on the road getting around and being able to reduce that carbon emissions from there. And because we're running some national-based delivery, then there's some flights involved. So we're taking a look at a mix of things around carbon offsets and migrating the fleet to something more electric, perhaps not fully, but more. But there are tremendous upfront costs involved in this. Replacing 11, 8, 9, 10, 11 vehicles that are second-hand and maybe 15 years old with brand new hybrids or electrics is money we don't have. So we're starting to look at imaginative ways that we might be able to solve some of those problems.
Right. Again, forward thinking, looking.
Well, and it's part of our contribution to the society that we're living in. I can hardly talk about sea level rise in South Dunedin and the need to rehome a whole lot of people who are currently renting if we're chewing through the oil and diesel without much regard to how we're contributing. So, really pleased. The senior staff are really excited about the opportunity here, but as with most things in a not-for-profit, we've got the issue of, how do we front the costs around that transition?
Right, and being ready to move when
the opportunity provides, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So you've mentioned the 10-year plan. Are there any other future goals or priorities for the mission?
I think it's probably useful just to think about the general state of it out there, right? Because there's some things that New Zealand does really well and we're doing fine at. But we're in the middle of the OECD for child poverty. We've got the highest youth suicide rate in the OECD. We've got the 3rd highest obesity rate. We've got some of the most highest imprisonment rates in the developed world, and we've got the highest rate of family violence. So
doesn't sound good, does it?
It doesn't sound good. We've got some emerging poverty amongst the elderly due to the housing market, and of course housing is the better part of poverty in New Zealand, and that's a really significant issue that's been going for 30, 40 years. And of course climate change, which we just talked about, is going to affect poorer folks harder and earlier than everybody else. So those are kind of really big forces out there in the world. And I think that the board and I and the managers and the staff are really determined that we're going to do our bit to make a dent in some of those things where we can. That's going to involve further adaptation and evolution and innovation in what we do and how we do it, so that we can continue to do our best for the people we're looking to help.
Right. Working smarter, not harder.
Yes, although with a little bit of caution, because I'm not entirely sure about AI right now.
Oh, no.
but we found that going online with some of our Parenting Through Separation courses saved us an awful lot of travel time, and actually whānau seemed to like it as much, if not better, than the in-person stuff. So there's some innovations around how we do what we do, as well as what it is that we're actually doing with people and who we're doing it with. And, we'll find our way.
It's all about the people.
Yeah.
That's lovely. So thank you, Laura. Thank you once again so much for your exceptional leadership, empathy and wisdom. Your guidance is truly appreciated by all of us in the office and by the service delivery teams, the frontline people, as we strive to provide gold standard delivery of the mission services. You have been listening to the Methodist Mission Southern's podcast series, Change That Works. And this is the last in our series of 8 podcasts on the Methodist Mission Southern, what we do and how we are working to improve social outcomes through change that works, enough support and challenge for you to risk a better future. Over the last 8 months, we have talked about the services the mission offers: sustaining tenancies, youth transition houses, parenting through separation, Little Citizens, Engage, Young Mums Transition House and the Taitura Hapori Community Service Specialist, all of which Laura mentioned. You can find all these podcasts on our YouTube channel, Methodist Mission Southern at MM South, and on OAR FM Change That Works. Please sign up to our newsletter to read stories about our mahi and like and share us on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. If you would like to support the mission's work with a donation or regular giving, please go to the Support Us page of our website, which has all the various options on how you can do this, including my contact details. And our website is mmsouth.org.nz. Thank you for listening. Ka kite anō.